Okay, so you gotta see this thing I dug up from the archives. It's a declassified government textbook from 1984. Now, the official title is Metropolitan French, but trust me, it is so much more than just a language course. This thing is a time capsule. It's a guide to a whole forgotten mindset for how to survive and even thrive when you're abroad.
I want you to picture this. You're an American diplomat, and you've just landed in Paris. The year is 1984. There's no internet in your pocket, no Google Translate, no Uber. The city is this huge analog maze of payphones and paper maps, and it's full of social rules you just don't get yet. Your mission? Don't just survive, you have to actually function. And this brilliant little book, it just gets right to the point. It basically says, look, you could probably get by just fine staying in an English-speaking bubble, just going between the embassy and your apartment. But you wouldn't be doing your job, would you? You wouldn't connect with anyone. You wouldn't really be there.
So that's the setup. That's the challenge facing our diplomat. They might be a total expert in foreign policy, a real pro, but out there on the streets of Paris, they're a complete beginner, trying to figure out how to do the simplest things in a world that feels totally alien. So, what was their secret weapon? It was this, the Foreign Service Institute's FAST course. Now, FAST stands for Familiarization and Short-Term Training. And just look at that definition. The goal wasn't to teach a language. The goal was to help people increase their ability to handle new situations. That distinction right there, it's absolutely crucial. And this really gets to the core of the whole philosophy. A traditional language course, right? It's all about mastering grammar, memorizing vocab, basically knowing the language. But this FSI course, it was all about capability. It was about being able to get things done. The language was just the tool you used to accomplish your mission. The course even warns you about this kind of surface-level learning. For instance, you can learn that the French word supermarché means supermarket. But if all you do is picture your local grocery store back home, your mental image is, and I'm quoting here, totally false. This was about building a deep, rich cultural understanding, not just a simple vocabulary list.
Now, this philosophy wasn't just some abstract theory in a book. It actually armed our diplomat with a real-world practical toolkit for survival, starting with the most basic everyday tasks.
So, for example, hailing a taxi. It wasn't a free-for-all. There was a whole system. You couldn't just stick your arm out on any old street corner. Nope. You had to go to a designated taxi stand, called a tête de station. The course gave you that critical piece of information before it even taught you what to say. It was always context first, language second. And this is another brilliant example of a key skill they taught, how to decode the visual language of the city. I mean, before you can even ask for directions, you have to be able to read the world around you. Signs for exit, sortie, no parking, stationnement interdit, one way, sens unique. This isn't grammar class. This is Urban Survival 101. And right here, this is the guiding principle for the entire course. Every single lesson was built with vocabulary and grammar and cultural notes. But the authors say, straight up, that all of it, every single drill, was just preparation for the final, most important step, actually communicating with someone to get something done. So the course provided the tactical skills, no doubt, but its real mission was something way more ambitious. It was about kind of rewiring the diplomat's brain, helping them develop a whole new, sophisticated mindset for learning and adapting to anything. This is incredible to me. Here, in a 1984 government textbook, is a deep dive into metacognition, which is basically just thinking about how you think. The course flat out recognized that not everyone learns the same way, and it actually pushed students to understand their own mental wiring.
To make this point, it uses this wonderful analogy of a bicycle in a box. So how would you put it together? Would you be the person who lays out every single part first to see what you're working with? Would you read the instructions cover to cover before you even touch a tool? Or would you just dive in and follow them one step at a time? The book says there's no single right way, but the key is to know your own way. It's a lesson in self-awareness. And this might be my favorite part. The course wasn't just about what words mean, but why they mean what they mean. So the French word for a building, immeuble, is related to the word immovable. And get this, the word for furniture, meuble, movable property. See? The language isn't just a code, it's a window into a completely different way of seeing the world. So, as we start to pull all these threads together, you can see that the FSI course was teaching something much, much deeper than French. It was teaching the art of learning itself. The expectations were crystal clear. Don't you worry about memorizing dialogues word for word. Don't stress about perfect grammar. The real focus was on effective communication and knowing how to ask for help. In other words, it was all about being resourceful, not being perfect. And that's really the single biggest takeaway from this whole thing. This training was never about making you sound like a native Parisian. It was about giving you the capability and, just as important, the confidence to walk into any new situation, size it up, and figure out how to operate within it.
So, what can we learn from this 40-year-old teaching philosophy today? In our world where everything is instant? Well, at the end of the day, the FSI understood that real communication isn't about having flawless grammar. It's about observation, it's about adaptability, and maybe most importantly, it's about empathy, genuinely trying to understand where another person is coming from, their culture, and their point of view. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. This whole course was built on the idea that you would make mistakes, you would get confused, and you'd have to ask for help. That messy process of trying and failing and trying again, that's where the real learning happens. So in an age where our phones can give us a perfect translation in half a second, what have we lost? What is the value of the struggle? That's something worth thinking about.